All right. Welcome back to another edition of the Other League Pod. I'm one of the hosts, Gio, and we got East Nye back for the final week, week 14. And wow, I can't believe the regular season, I should say, is going to be wrapped up this week. We'll get to kind of a little quick touch on our matchup this week, Sny. We had a nice W. But yeah, dude, it's crazy looking at this before the pod. A lot of crazy stuff could happen this week.
Yeah, it's nut cutting time. It's the last week of the regular season. Some teams are still on slides and some teams, we moved tiers are evening out and tiers are getting bigger and it's crazy, man. But yeah, we're here and you know, it can go either way. There's literally 10 teams who can make the playoffs. It's pretty wild.
It's insane this year. Yeah. Let me share this real quick. I mean, I think we're trying to get to the point where we're looking ahead more than we are looking forward, or looking back, I should say. Um, yeah, just I mean, the first note when I was looking at this, because I mean, it's been I guess a couple weeks since we jumped on here to do some recaps and stuff. Last week with the holiday was just it was just tough to get on, but everybody scores over 100, which is kind of interesting. I feel like
Hmm.
in a full point PPR league, you probably should, but I feel like it's been rare this year that we've seen everybody do it. So, a lot of points last week. I'll say that. Everybody
Yeah.
pretty much hit their projections or went over them, basically, besides I think two teams. Yeah, I think Anthony and Arby's were the only ones that came up a bit short. So,
Damn.
um, crazy week, dog. I mean, there was a lot of well, I would say the major takeaway from last week is that barring something pretty insane, or if for some godforsaken reason, Logan doesn't start anybody this week and loses his matchup, and Anthony beats me by outscoring Logan by 75. Ant is Ant's in the dress. It's all but pretty much locked up for the young man, unfortunately. And uh, unfortunately, CMC goes down, and story of the season for Anth. Just seeing that guy injured, and in that snow game, I think he would have had a huge game. He looked really good to begin the game, so it's tough. But yeah, I think the dress is all but locked, and the song. So it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, it's been a tough season for Anthony. It's just the final nail. The week that it's pretty fitting for the way his season's gone. The last week of the season, he locks up the song and last place, and like barring something unforeseen, like you said, but like CMC goes on IR again, and it's just he's had him for what 3 weeks, and that's it.
Yeah,
It's just
I mean, it's tough on a
tough, man.
keeper and a first round pick, and like I said, was trending in a pretty good direction. I think game script wise. I mean, Andy basically hit his projections on the head, 113, but
Hmm.
um, and David Njoku was going off in
That
that
was
Cleveland
nuts.
game too for Anth. I
That
was
was
like,
nuts.
Anth had an outside chance actually if
Yeah,
that one play. I mean,
I
Njoku was wide open, and he doesn't throw it to him. Would have been his, I think, third touchdown of the game.
third
And
time they would have won him the match probably the
yeah,
game.
I was just gonna say would have certainly altered at least his fate. When coming down to this week, but yeah, that's the major news takeaway I'll say. And then some guys like yourself gets to 5-8. Phil gets to 5-8. um, Ship Blizzard with a massive performance gets to five and
Huge
eight.
week. Yeah.
And Ryan just continues to silence the doubters, as he said in the text. I agree with him. I mean, it's every week I look at his team and think, I mean, outside of his running backs, who really scares me. But 149, I mean, what a week from Tiburon when he needed it to get in the sixth spot too. I mean, it's nothing solidified, but with his point total and at 6 and 7, he's got a good chance to still make the playoffs. Even like I said, even with a loss, I think when he gets to 6-8, I mean that could do it for the seventh seed this year. So we'll
Hmm.
see. But yeah, crazy week of points. I mean, what are your any major takeaways? I mean, I just thinking of some players. We'll get to them, I guess, probably this week for the preview. But more just kind of looking at managers right now.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Well, Ryan, the last 2 weeks, sort of righted the ship a little bit. He was coming off a four week
Yep.
skid. And I think it's interesting how much his team sort of changed, at least my outlook on his team changed in the last 2 weeks. I mean, I know like big weeks will do that. But his
Sure.
team like actually looks like really solid if he gets into the playoffs. And I know we had questions about it a few weeks ago, but like with those two backs that he has, and then Jonnu Smith coming on to be like a legit top five tight end, and then the emergence of Bucky Irving has just been insane. So if he can like, continue to stream Caleb, I think is a fine streamer. Like, his team might be able to like catch lightning in a bottle and like start having some spike weeks, especially with those backs. So, it's interesting how some teams like the last 2 weeks just kind of shape how we view them, and especially now moving into the playoffs, because we see every year like one or two teams just like get hot and then, maybe they're like a 5 seed or a 4 seed or something. And they just like
Oh
end
yeah.
up, they just have the best team. So it's going to be interesting as we kind of move in. But that was my big takeaway. And then three teams officially took themselves out of the last place contention. So,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah. That's right.
the top, I mean, seeding is going to be huge. Like,
Yeah.
there's three teams in play for the number one seed. So,
Scroll down just to the
realistically,
standings
yeah,
to look at it. But yeah, I mean, you're
yeah,
right. I mean, there's, you know, Andy's probably not going to get the number one seed, I would say, just because of the point
outside,
total
very
differential.
outside shot. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
but I mean,
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
still in the hunt, but you're definitely right. I mean, the guy's on a 5 game win streak too. I didn't really take note of that until I was kind of just,
Wow.
looking to see who else is, I knew no one else besides myself was drowning. I was just more so
The
seeing what everyone
inverse
else
you.
was doing. Yeah, God, what is going on in Greenbow land? But yeah, it's an interesting, that 5 seeds are locked. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
B we kind of talked about. I mean, we'll get to them a little bit because I think playoff outlook would be cool too to do while we're kind of going through it. But
yeah,
um, it's seeing that 1346 at 8-5. I mean, he's untouchable even with that point.
he's
That
in.
that point total. So
He's in.
it's yeah, he's in the running for sure. So let's get to week 14. I think that'll we can
Yeah,
start breaking down some teams. I mean, a lot of buys this week. It's crazy. 6 teams on buy on week 14.
insane,
Sucks.
insane. It sucks. It sucks too, like for them and like, dude, there were some teams who had buys in week five. So
Yeah.
like from an NFL perspective, like so many teams, like it can go so many ways. Like, do the teams that have a bye now, do they want it because they're getting healthy right before a playoff push, or does it like kind of stop any like you know trajectory they had and like a routine that they had or anything like that? Because we've seen teams come off buys and just like look sloppy. So and then the teams that had an early bye, like they're kind of getting in a role or like, maybe they need a buy. So it's just interesting how that happens. It's crazy that the last week of the regular season, there's six teams on buy. I don't know if
Yes.
that's we've ever seen that before.
With an extra week now, I think we're going to see it more and more, I mean, it does it from a fantasy perspective. I mean, I guess, you kind of look into that when you're drafting sometimes. I mean, some managers are better at it than others. Like I said, I don't put a lot of stock into weeks or bye weeks, I should say, when I'm drafting typically, because, you kind of go based off your board. But um, it's got to be a factor moving forward because, I mean, there's some heavy hitters out this week and some pretty, must win matchups, and we'll get to them here. But I mean, there's some big names. I mean, there's some, MVP level names that aren't playing this week, which is going to be interesting. Let's
Yeah.
start with mine, I guess. I mean, it's probably why I'm losing my mind in the rules department in the group text because my team is just killing me, killing my brain. But yeah, a couple weeks ago I sat here, I think it was the week I was playing Steve, and I was like, all right, I got a couple guys on bye, probably gonna lose this one, but I got 3 more weeks, just need a win, just need one win. Now I come down to week 14. I don't even control my own fate with a win, which is pretty depressing. I'm gonna need, some help from you, and Ryan getting a loss for me to even, based off the point total, get in. So,
Yep.
yeah, tough treading. I started 6-2. It's remarkable that I there's a pretty good chance, even with a win, that I might not make it. So, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy that Greenbow might be sitting on the sideline here. Not much to say for Ant's sake. I'll say from just from that point of view. I mean, um, I, I think Anthony said this is his least fun fantasy season ever, which naturally would be,
Can't blame him.
based off of what happened to the guy. Yeah, but he's got a decent team to roll out against me this week, so we'll see what happens. The only guy I got out was Zay Flowers, but the guy never scores a touchdown anyway, so he's pretty much good for like 10 to 15 every week. And those are like the good weeks, really. I mean, he's consistent, but that's been the trouble with Green Bowl. They can't find the end zone. My guys can't find the end zone. Got some good names, but it's just it's been tough treading. I like what I saw out of Pacheco. I'll say that. He
Yeah.
definitely looked like he was, it was good to see out of the first game, and I think he certainly. I mean, I think they split what 7-7 with the carries or something like that, and I think it was 7-7. But in any case, he certainly looked way more explosive with his touches than Kareem Hunt. So
Oh yeah.
good to see there. I mean, I'll say that from that standpoint.
Oh yeah, and he should definitely start to get like the lion's share of work again. Um, assuming that he's healthy and can do it. Like I don't, I think he's just locked in like every week now. I think he's gonna get more and more comfortable. But yeah, honestly, like kind of a low key like tough run out for you with the matchup
Yeah,
against Anthony. Like
definitely.
like Mahomes, and I can see that being a lower scoring game, but like he's got Ridley and Jacksonville, who I think can catch like two touchdowns. He's got,
Okay, it's been great.
Rashad White, maybe he gets in the end zone receiving. I don't know. I think I'm gonna pick you this week. I think you kind of right the ship a little bit. Um, but
I'm hoping.
it
I'm
should
gonna.
be it should be tight. It should be tight because you got some guys who I'm kind of
Yep,
like
I agree.
Swift
Yeah,
and Kincaid. But I mean, maybe that Kincaid matchup is like one where he's right if he's healthy. So
yeah. More to come with Kincaid. I think I settled on Baker. I mean, tough week against you. I mean, even if I do the swap last week with Love, didn't really change anything. I think I still would end up losing by you by like 4 or 5. So I mean, I can't kick myself a little bit there. Drake London. I mean, Kirk Cousins. The guy had 16 targets and he only had 16 points, 7 catches for like 80 yards last week or something, or 9 catches for 80 yards, something like that. But
Kirk looks bad, man.
I mean, for them to say that they want Penix, or the fans are saying that they want to take a look at Penix, is like all that money you gave Kirk, and like they're already calling for him, and like they're in the hunt for that division still. So it's
Yeah,
like it's crazy, man. But again, a guy
it's
that
tough luck.
getting a lot of volume. Same thing with Jefferson, one of the best receivers in the NFL. I think three maybe overall. Just doesn't get in the end zone. Like he doesn't
Yeah.
score. It's just this it's disappointing. But yeah, to your point, like you said, Swift, more to come with Kincaid. But I guess I will say if I do sneak into the playoffs because we're going kind of like playoff outlook, um, I do a pretty decent starting lineup, I would say. And then, with Pacheco kind of coming back into the fold, that could definitely be an X factor for me. But again, a lot of moving pieces. Got to beat Anthony, a tough one, like you said. I got myself too. And I got to hope that Ryan loses. So it's fate is not in my own hands, which sucks when you come to the playoffs or trying to get into the playoffs, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even like, yeah, it's
Yeah, go
tough
ahead.
because the points, your easiest path is obviously to get the 6 seed, which is
Yeah.
you winning and me beating Ryan.
Yep.
And um, but then still like for your team, like you still can hope that, your team like goes off. Like, maybe you put
Yep.
up a 150 and Rick puts up, like a 90 week or something like that. And then, you're kind of closing the gap there a little bit. It might be out of the reach, but for points, but at least me
Yep.
and Ryan, like me beating Ryan, then you're in. I think like, and you said, I think like we've been waiting for regression with Jefferson to hit where he just has like those like massive spike weeks and it just like hasn't
Either one.
hit
Yeah.
this year like it should. And for London, like would you rather have Penix? Like I think I would.
I just want to see my team score touchdowns. It's like that's been the most disappointing thing. Like I look at my roster, I'm like, and probably why I started 6-2, like pretty good team. Like not the best team in the league by any means, but I look at my team on paper, I'm like, this is a pretty good team, but they don't score any touchdowns, and like that's where I'm losing these tight matchups. My points for and points against are pretty almost on par. I mean, 60, 70 points off. I mean, it's not the margin of error has been very small. I've had a couple blowout losses, but um, overall, like my team just not like I by no means I don't think I've had a single week where I was even in the hunt for most points. So I think that's
Yeah.
the biggest takeaway. Like I'm averaging like that 110 10 mark, which is like,
Yeah.
it's beatable.
You missed I mean, you have like a top five quarterback. You have Jefferson and London. There's been spurts where London's been, looking like a top 10 receiver. And then you had James Cook. And, they just haven't put it together in the same weeks. And like when you're always like kind of missing like those massive spike weeks, like it's tough to, especially when you start 6-2, like all you really needed was like one more spike week. And
That's it. Yeah.
you probably would have had one or two more wins. So like it's tough, man. It sucks, but I mean, I think,
One
at least
small glimmer.
yeah, I think like, you got, this is what you got, and I think I hope Baker comes out and flames the Raiders.
He
But
really should. I mean, I
he
guess, I
should.
mean, there's Thursday nights have not been kind to the Amade family in general. I'll say that, especially Anthony, but um, this year. So I'm just trying to avoid, the Packers had a tough game. Detroit's had a pretty good defense. And even though I do think Jordan Love, has found his stride a little bit in the last couple of weeks, meaning like he's not turning it over. Um, at most, I'll get two touchdowns from him, and like the likelihood is he probably will throw a pick. I mean, he's usually good for at least one, and he hasn't had one in like 2 or 3 games now. So, um, yeah, I'm just hoping he comes out and maybe puts up a 30 spot for me or something like that. I mean, to your point, he's got Mahomes. I think that's gonna be probably pretty even between the two. But yeah, we'll see. You're right. Anthony's gonna. It would be also fitting if I lost to Anth, and that's how my playoff ends. Playoff run ends, I should say, or playoff hopes end. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens this week.
Yeah.
The Bastards, I guess that was his cue when he was talking about it in the group. He for some reason put his entire team on the bench. Ha ha ha. Very funny. Very funny. Um,
Sneaky.
yeah, so I mean, I guess we can decipher it when we go down here. I mean,
I kind of feel like I know who he's going to start.
yeah, I mean, I was like, let's share his bench. I guess we'll do it from there. I mean, the only thing that he's solidified, I would say, for himself is that he is going to miss the playoffs 2 years in a row. So he's had a hell of a run up until then, but 2 years in
Yeah.
a row, it's got to suck. Quiet year from the commish overall, probably because his team wasn't very good. But yeah,
No.
he was a very low key outside of calling me out today. So, but which was deserved, I will say. I could have swore we went back to regular standings, but I don't know. Man, I guess I made that up. But um,
Yeah,
got
I
to
got
figure
it
he's
all sorted.
going Bowers, Kamara, Chubb,
Yep.
Tyreek, Tua.
Wow, Tyreek, man. Tyreek might just go nuts against the Jets this week. Because I don't think Sauce is playing.
I really don't know who he's going to play because Bateman's on bye and so is Tank Dell. So I guess he's going to hope Keon
Coleman?
Coleman plays. Yeah, if he plays. Um,
Yeah. That's
that's
not a
interesting.
terrible flyer this week. I don't think unless he's healthy. That could be a higher scoring game.
He's going to have to pick up a defense. Doesn't have a defense either. So yeah, I don't know what he's doing. I'll just say that right now. I mean, I guess he's out of the playoff picture, but
Yeah.
you got some work to do, Logan. I know you're traveling, but yeah, you got some work to do. So yeah, interesting team there. I mean, Nils. I mean, he squeaked out a win, I think, last week, right? Yeah. So
Yep.
um, he's got to feel happy. I mean, he's sitting at 8-5. I mean, splash. Someone had to splash money on Garendo. I mean, why not? He's a starting running back here for the next couple of weeks, and
Yeah.
he lost Jordan Mason earlier. A few weeks ago when CMC came back, and yeah, why not? I mean, why not? Why not put some money on him? I think Robinson's on bye this week, I believe, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, Nils has a decent team. I'm kind of was starting to look at some guys like not like necessarily the guys that we like always talk about, but like who is their X, like who's the X factor, like or who are the big, I guess outside of the big guns for each team really that has a chance to make playoffs. And I mean, I mean Trey McBride. I mean, I'm trying to
Yeah.
like look at Nils' team. I mean, Trey McBride
Yeah.
doesn't have a receiving touchdown still, which is remarkable. And he's the number two tight
Yeah.
end overall, which is
Yeah.
crazy. But
Yeah. I
because
think
like looking at his
no
team, like
good.
it doesn't scare me. Like on paper, there's no like crazy guys that
Yeah.
jump out, but like he's getting it done. I mean, he's just finding ways to win, which sometimes that's all you really need.
Yeah. He got I want to look back at Nils' schedule, but I know Nils' team has been and that happens sometimes during in fantasy. Like you're just on the fortunate side of the way things go in fantasy. You're on the injury luck side, your team stays relatively healthy. You're on, the variance side of wins and losses where like like at least, specifically my matchup against Nils, like I lost by point 0.1. And
Yeah,
like
that's wild.
that, like if literally if Xavier Worthy had another yard rushing, like I would have won. But so that stuff, that happens, and that's fortunate for Nils. So he has an opportunity now, like his team to like kind of get hot. And it wouldn't surprise me if like, maybe that Kyler McBride stack starts like coming together and like
Gonna
Kyler
need
starts
it.
throwing more touchdowns and McBride starts scoring and then he's putting up like 25, 30 weeks from the tight end position. Like that's huge. And then he's got like Garendo,
Yep.
like if he's legit the RB1 in San Francisco, which it looks like he will be, like that's a massive opportunity.
Yep.
So I think there are avenues for Nils's team to get hot and to like, have a few spike weeks where he kind of just like kept getting wins and kept stacking wins and then he gets into the playoffs. So I'm gonna going into this week specifically, I'm gonna take Nils this week. I think he gets into the
Yep.
playoffs on like a bit of a 2 week win streak. His projection is 106. Yeah, I think Nils puts up like close to 120 again. I can see like that Arizona Seattle game kind of shooting out, sort of the opposite of what it was before. I think
Yep.
Najee's been an awesome play. Every week that's honestly my biggest regret outside of not drafting David Montgomery over Tank Dell was not taking Najee Harris and I took Xavier Worthy. Like that was silly because Najee's just been a workhorse. So
Yeah, he's been. I would say that's probably the maybe like a surprise or like a sleeper pick if you want to call it. Because like, yeah, you're right. I mean, even with Jalen Warren, I mean, Najee Harris has looked pretty good overall all year with that Pittsburgh offense. So yeah, that's
yeah,
a good note. I mean, I think the biggest X factor for him, in terms of like the capability of like going out and winning, winning the league. I mean, that no one's trying to finish second. Like if you make the
right,
playoffs, which he's in the playoffs, and trying to win the
right.
league, he's got CeeDee Lamb last week was so disappointing with that, that second half. I know they're calling it an injury. I personally thought he got in a fight with somebody like verbally, and they just were like, "All right, you're like benched, like whatever."
Yeah, we're
Like
done. You don't need to play
so,
anymore.
yeah, like and with their, I mean, they've won a couple games in a row. I mean, Monday night you kind of expect him to be out there. I mean, this week, which
Yeah.
for Nils' sake doesn't really mean much. I don't think it's going to move his positioning too much, just based off the points and who's ahead of him, but. Um, Yeah, I mean, do they shut CeeDee Lamb down? Like I keep saying that I feel like every week, but
Yeah,
that's a big swing for Nils. I feel like even with
yeah,
him kind of not having the season that you kind of expected from CD. I mean, he's getting the volume. He just he's catching balls from Cooper Rush. I mean,
yeah. Outside of the 40 pointer he put against week 8, he's had a very similar season to Justin Jefferson. I feel like where
yep,
he's kind of capped at like that 20 21 range. But I mean, I would be surprised if they sat Lamb down. There's like a sort of like an outside chance that the Cowboys could get hot and make the playoffs.
yep,
And Mike McCarthy like might be coaching for his job. So like I feel pretty confident about CD at least like over the next like 3 matchups until they play in Philly, which is just a brutal way to end
yeah,
the year. But yeah, I it would like if we look back 3 weeks from now and Nils' team like had the most or second to most points in the last 3 weeks, like it wouldn't surprise me.
yeah. No, that's a good takeaway. I got Nils too in this one. I mean,
Yep.
Winchester's Lure Winchester's doing God knows what with his lineup, and he's got a couple holes already to plug in. So, yeah, not a yeah, really, really pathetic, really, really subdue year. I wouldn't say pathetic, but a really subdue year from the Bastards. Got to be disappointed.
Yep.
Um, this is definitely another seeding matchup. Like we mentioned, this is a good matchup.
Yep.
Um, Arby's in the plantation, as we said. Andy's on a 5 game winning streak. The guy's overall record, that's a tough one to pull up, but I got to imagine it's got to be one of, if not the top, in terms of just like a win percentage. I feel like Andy every year is really good. And he's like
Yeah.
finished. I mean, being the guy that pays out or collects, I feel like he's come in third so many times. So like I know he's been in the hunt um, pretty often in this league, at least since he's joined it. So I'm happy for him. I really am. I think he's always put together some good teams and just kind of fallen short. I know this is kind of like the elusive title for him in fantasy. So his team looks good. He's got a couple holes to kind of plug in this week with Daniels out on bye, but um, is Brees not playing this week? Probably not. We don't know yet. Um,
I I would I would kind of be surprised.
yeah,
They like it it wouldn't surprise me if they just like sort of sit Sauce and Brees the rest of the year. Because
yeah,
I think there's like there might be a mandate from ownership being like, we're out of it. You guys are all not here next year, so like do not play these players, and we're putting them on IR. Wouldn't surprise me. But then again, like the Jets in a lost year last year, they gave Brees 35 carries in the last
it's
game
true.
of the year for no reason. So I don't know. I don't put anything past this team, but it wouldn't surprise me if Brees doesn't play at least this week.
Yeah, because I think I mean outside of that one, I mean the Daniels play, and then yeah, that's really it. I mean, like well, he's lost a couple guys as we mentioned throughout the year with Rashi Rice, and there was somebody else that he lost for the
Sucks.
year, if I'm not mistaken. But in any case, he's thin. I mean, he's top heavy team, and now with Kareem Hunt, he's really gonna hope that Brees Hall keeps playing because I mean that's gonna be a big hole to fill because Kareem Hunt, unless Pacheco goes down again, I don't see
Yeah.
him being kind of relevant. He was more of like a I don't know. He was just kind of a plotter. Like, you know what I mean? Just got the work. I mean, he did produce, I will say that with the work because he was like the
Yeah.
only back really. But just watching him run with get next to Pacheco, I'm like, geez, like there's just it's night and day, which like
No
was a
juice.
little like was worrisome from a Pacheco owner standpoint, but yeah, like it's they're uncomparable. And then yeah, his secret weapon, Taysom Hill, what a brutal injury. But
Oh,
um,
yeah.
he loses.
That would have been great going into the playoffs at tight end.
Yep, that's what I'm saying. So that's a tough loss. And then obviously with the trade with he gets rid of Ingram. Now he's gonna Ferguson, not a bad play. Wasn't a bad play, obviously, with Dak, who we'll see. I mean, that backup in Dallas, he's got that crazy last name. I can't think of it off the top of my head right
Yeah,
now, but
Schoonmaker, he's getting more
Schoonmaker.
involved.
Yeah, he's been getting a ton of looks. So like does Ferguson kind of eat into that a little bit and take over? We'll see. But
I don't know.
yeah, that tight end
See.
spot's definitely gonna be a little bit interesting moving forward in the playoffs. And then, like you said, the Jets franchise, he's got two of them, with Adams and him,
Yeah.
and Brees Hall. That's a tough stack a dying team.
Yeah, never fun to be stacking New York football players. I know that for sure with Neighbors and Tyrone Tracy. So yes, I know that for sure. But I mean, he this if we're moving into X factors, like we immediately one have to talk. I mean, obviously AJ Brown,
Please do.
Carolina, and then but Devon Achane like against the
Beat.
Jets, like this might be like a 30 plus point week for Achane because the Jets can't stop the run. They've phoned it in on defense. Their whole team's checked out. Um, and like they've just been destroyed by pass catching running backs and running backs as a whole. So like it I think Achan is he could carry Andy's week.
He's been amazing with like any games that Tua starts. He's been just on a absolute tear. I mean, look at these weeks.
It's insane.
Crazy week. Yeah, he's been awesome. I think that was outside of the round he kept him in. I mean, the guy's I mean he's top eight, I want to say in PPR running backs. I mean, at least.
Yeah,
So
he's gonna be like a top five pick next year.
yeah, so that's man, he's back on the board too. Someone can actually draft him. But another guy that's like pretty interesting. Like, I mean, outside of Brock Bowers, who's
Yeah,
amazing.
talk
I
about him.
mean, Jacoby Myers, man, just
He's a
getting a
baller.
ton of work, just
He's a
tons
really
of
good player.
looks. He really is. I like he made some really good catches in that game against Kansas City. I kind of caught some of bits and pieces in the background a little bit, but um, yeah, I mean, look at the target share. I mean, it's nice to have just a wide receiver one, in a PPR league. He can slot him in as his probably wide receiver three, I would say, most likely with Adams. He probably
Mhm.
moves him up. So yeah, nice little pickup there. I mean, these are some X factor names that kind of round out your roster when you got some holes to fill, like Andy did with
Yeah.
some injuries. So I like him. I think Jacoby Myers. I always kind of liked him a little bit, but he's always kind of second fiddle, obviously with Devontae there in Las Vegas, but he's a fun little PPR player. I'll tell you that. I mean, you get
Yeah.
15 out of your flex, not a bad week.
Yeah, that's huge every week. And
And then
that just like helps elevate your floor every single week. If you can have like a flex or like a wide receiver too that scores like 14 to 18 points, and if he scores, he gets like 21, like
yeah,
that's so important.
yeah, it's big. I mean, on the flip side, I mean, Arby's has got a great team. I mean, I was kind of looking at some of
Yeah.
these guys. I mean, we kind of hit on Chase Brown a little bit with just like
It's him back.
some
Great matchup.
like yeah, awesome
Odell's been
matchup.
playing better, but it's
X, oh yeah, for sure. But I still think that's going to be a shootout. I mean, Cincinnati's offense been being practically unstoppable. I mean, look what they just did against Pittsburgh. But um, yeah, their defense is just as bad as how good their offense has been, unfortunately. So,
mhm.
um, but I mean, yeah, home run pick with the Chase Brown thing, like we said a couple weeks ago on the pod. I mean, I think that's certainly what I look at his team. I'm like, that's a huge X factor. Like nobody,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone predicted, one that Chase Brown was going to be a starter, and then let alone when he was a starter, what he's doing now. I mean, this guy has been a monster. Like
Mhm.
a legit monster. Like this is 20-point weeks pretty much every week except for let's say starting from week 4 because that's really when he took over the backfield.
Mhm.
One week where he had 7, one week where he had 11. I mean, in some that was a bad loss against Philly, so Philly's Philly, but 20-point weeks. I mean, this guy's been awesome
Yeah,
for
he's been on
Arby's,
fire.
and like I think that's been a pretty big piece for him in terms of just like Kenneth Walker's been like kind of hit or miss. He had that 3 touchdown game earlier in the season, but like Charbonnet scores last week. I just feel like, like 13. I mean, he had some big weeks, don't get me wrong. I mean, 33, 20, 23, but
It's a long time ago.
13, 6, exactly. And like their offense has been like kind of humming too. So it's kind of disappointing to see that he hasn't really like done much, even though like the rest of their team has been like really, really solid. So, I mean, that's nitpicky. The rest of Arby's lineup is like pretty stacked. I mean, look at just top down. I mean, Hurts, St. Brown, Cup's kind of regressed. I feel like a little bit. I mean, what was it
Yep.
last week? 4. Yeah, I was gonna say I knew he had kind of a dud week against New Orleans, but you're gonna have a couple of those that you can't really predict. And then T Higgins when he's out there, he's got some serious names to him. So Arby's gonna be tough out in the playoffs, man. Gonna be tough
Yep.
out.
Yeah, agreed. And he's with Walker, like Seattle just can't run block. Their offensive line is horrendous, and
Yep,
they've been struggling running the ball, so they're just like, all right, well, we're just gonna throw it a bunch. And I think Geno is like third in the NFL in passing yards. Like why would you run if you can't, and when you can just throw it to Metcalf and JSN? Like, so
true.
that's why Charbonnet's been scoring. Like, because, they get it down and then they just put Charbonnet in, near the goal line. So, but he's got Charbonnet. So, he's kind of got
Yep.
that like net or whatever. Yeah, Arby's is a good team. I'm gonna pick Arby's to win this week.
So am I. I mean, kind of chalk the first 3 here a little bit, but yeah, I really like Arby's matchups. I mean, Hurts at home against Carolina too. Like, St. Brown at home against the Packers. I mean, just looking, first 2 that we kind of talk about. And like I said, I think Andy, if Brees Hall doesn't play, starting Kareem Hunt's gonna be tough. Just
Yeah,
tough to
you're
make up some points.
praying for a touchdown.
Yep, yep. So I got Arby's, but both these teams got good teams and there's a lot of we kind of talked about it all year. There's a lot of parity. There's a lot of I think there's a lot of teams in the hunt this year for the
Yeah.
play
And
for the championship. So
Arby's is set up if anything happens to any running back in the NFL, he has their handcuff. So
that is true.
he's
Yeah,
definitely thinking Arby's. He has what, 6 running backs on his bench? 5.
yeah, he 5, but yeah, I mean, good for him. I guess
Yeah, smart.
he's really just. I mean, if you have nothing else on your bench to keep, might as well stash and say a prayer. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Especially if you have like I think his structure is really good. He's got his locked in top quarterback. He's got 4 receivers that he's going to cycle between his 3 starting spots, and then
yep,
just going to plug in running back if anything happens to his top 2. So, and then, Laporta, he just kind of fills in and sees, maybe he scores. So, yeah,
yeah,
Arby's is a really good team. When we get to the power rankings, he might be kind of pushing for that top tier for me.
yeah. I agree. All right. Lot co-hosts have a lot vested in this matchup. I'll say that.
Yep.
Take it away. This is your matchup, so we'll kind of I'll dissect it while you're kind of going through it if you want.
Yep. Yeah.
Josh Jacobs
So
been amazing. Though I will say that. As a Packers fan, like
yeah.
really nice to see that we kind of hit on that signing. It didn't look exactly like that at first. So,
Mm-mm.
um, you and I've talked about it a few times on the pod. I absolutely love Josh Jacobs. He looks awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, he does. I mean, he's looked awesome all year. Outside of like the first half of the first game, like where, he kind of
Yep.
took a while to get his feet under him. It's pretty funny looking back on that he was playing against Philly, and it kind of makes sense why he sort of struggled. But yeah, I mean, you talk about like the workhorses in the NFL, like he just gets so much work because he can do everything for the offense. And now that he's scoring touchdowns, he's just been a monster. So, um, yeah, he's fun to watch run, man.
No,
Yeah, what a machine. Um, this is sort of a tough run out for me, at least like
definitely.
against Brian, because he's got he does have Henry on a bye, so but he
Just
can
gonna
just
say that.
plug Bucky Irving right in, and s- this might be like a 40-point Saquon week too. Like he's got Carolina at home, so
Yeah,
like I'm expecting Saquon to score like 3 touchdowns at minimum. Um, and I don't mind Caleb as a streamer. He's been playing a lot better. I think his receivers are sort of suspect, but it feels like this could be a game where Jamison Williams scores a touchdown. Um,
sure.
and then Jonnu against the Jets. I mean, the Jets have been, I think, pretty decent against tight ends. But Jonnu's sort of like a different type of tight end.
He's been
So I think,
awesome
yeah, I like the Jets have been pretty solid, I think, against um
the last
sort
three
of like
weeks.
plotting
Good
tight ends,
Lord.
but John's he's been playing. He's so involved in the offense. Like him and Achan are just like making that offense go. So,
Truly.
um, but I don't know. I'm gonna pick me to keep it rolling. I think I like Burrow's matchup. I like Neighbors or Tracy. One of them I feel like is gonna, unless the game doesn't, it's like a defensive struggle, then I think at least one of them is gonna get home. Um, and their floors have been pretty solid because they're really involved. Like JSN is in a really good spot against Arizona as well. We
Yep.
just talked about Josh Jacobs, who like even though Detroit, their defense has been pretty good against the run, I feel like they've been pretty susceptible recently. They've lost a lot of pieces on their defense. So
They're very
it,
banged up.
the
Yeah.
more the more and more Jacobs gets work, like I think I assume he's going to score. And I have to start 2 tight ends. I don't like doing that. Um, but I don't have any other options. I can't play Debo. So
No, I wouldn't play
where I'm at.
Diva
I
at this
mean,
point. They're
would you play Debo? Would you play Westbrook Akine like and just pray for another touchdown? Like it feels like if it would be me to play Nick Westbrook Akine trying to keep that lightning in a bottle going and his
for
scoring
an eight
streak
straight
going.
games. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it's got to end soon, and it's not going to end in week 14 for me. Like
Yeah. I
I'm
mean,
not playing him.
yeah, looking, I probably know this matchup just as well as my own, just because once I figured
Yeah,
out essentially this morning at 11 that, my playoff hopes aren't just getting to the seventh seed, which I have right now, locked up. It's points. So, I really need obviously Ryan to take a loss here. So, kind of looking
yep,
at it, you both have some big holes. I mean, Nico Collins for you. That's tough.
yep.
It's a tough hole to
Yeah, it
fill. And
sucks.
massive one for Tiburon. I mean, I'll say one half of what we consider, not even consider what is the best, running back duo in the fantasy league right now. So,
Sucks.
Bucky Irving, it's funny. I think the one hole because of the Dak Prescott injury and just the kind of the way that he filled out his team, um, was probably at quarterback for Tiburon. So, and we had some like basic discussions. I know he had, you mentioned, just kind of trading maybe essentially for a quarterback, Baker Mayfield, Jordan Love for me were kind of in the conversation, but
Yeah,
the only guy I really wanted was kind of Bucky Irving from his roster, and like
yeah,
that Bucky Irving pick might be, he probably will keep Saquon. Let's be realistic, but Bucky Irving was a hell of a pick late, so I mean, that's certainly an option and a guy that's looked really good for him, and I like some of the guys like you mentioned. I mean, Jordan Addison. I mean, seems to be the guy that scores the touchdowns for Minnesota, which is kind of annoying, but
Yeah,
especially as a Jefferson owner. And then, you kind of hit on Jonas Smith. I kind of like Juwan Jennings this week. I know Chicago's
same.
kind of been kind of a tough defense, but you know, backs against the wall, San Fran's got to win. Like this is it. Like, they probably have a very, outside chance of making the playoffs, we'll say, and like, pretty injury riddled, obviously. But, I think they got to come out storming at home against Chicago. This is a must win.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I like that. I like that matchup a lot. And on the flip side, though, I like the Evan Ingram play. You mentioned the two tight end set, but um, even with Mac Jones playing this week, Evan Ingram is going to be involved pretty heavily, I think, in that passing game. So
Mhm.
I like some of your matchups. So it's I'm rooting for you. I'll say that, and to follow up and like I said, I'm gonna try to put the jinx on him. I'm gonna pick Tiburon this week. Good luck, Tiburon. But yeah, he's gonna have with those two running backs, kind of looking forward to both your teams because I mean you could actually sneak in the playoffs too, realistically with a crazy week. I mean, what do you
Yep.
need? 60 points, 50 points, maybe something like that over those
Um,
over
over
let's
Rick,
say
I need no, over Phil, I need
40.
65 and change. So
Okay,
it
a
it
little
it
more than I
needs
thought.
it I need to get into like the 165 70 range. Like it needs to be like it's borderline on like a miracle if I would get in. But, if Phil
Okay.
has a dud week, then, you know, there's
Crazy.
a chance. So,
Yeah, crazier things have
hey,
happened.
yeah.
A lot of fantasy implications here, obviously. With this matchup, so a lot of trickle down effect. I'll say that.
I'm hoping for like a 35 4 touchdown game from Burrow too, because
I think
I
you get
think and
that.
I think if I can walk down narrative street why I think Burrow can come out and have like a 40 burger, it's because
Please do.
Cincinnati I think was like, I don't know if they're mathematically eliminated. I don't think they are. There's like a very, very slim chance they can make a playoffs. Burrow was talking in an interview about, even though you're out of the playoffs, like you still go out and you still compete and you still like, want to, all the sort of cliches. He's not like a walking cliche. He said it like really well, but it reinforced that like, no, Burrow's still going to try to like win and like pad, like he's going to want to pad his stats and he's going to want to like
I agree.
keep some shit moving. So like I don't think they're going to like fade off. I don't think they're going to like pack it in or anything. I think like Burrow's not that kind of dude. So that's why I think like he could have games where he throws like three, 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, and maybe this is the week in Dallas. So we'll see. I'm hoping for that. I'm hoping for that like 40 pointer that I wasted earlier in the year. That would be some sweet justice there.
Yeah, no, it's a good takeaway. And honestly, it's a prime time game. You
Yep.
know, in Dallas on Monday night, so that'll be a fun one to for you to watch. I'll say,
Chase
as
and Higgins, if they both play, like that's a smash spot for Burrow.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Well, this is, again, we kind of talked about Phil trying to get to, an outside chance. He's been put up some good points this week, as we just noted, or this year, I should say, to keep himself in the hunt. And then, Steve's chasing down the number one seed, the only seed this year that's going to get a bye. So,
Yep.
I think the biggest kind of looking down. I mean, I was again kind of looking at some X factors for everybody was, see again. I mean, we kind of go back to the running backs, but like Gibbs and Kyron Williams, like you kind of just start there, right? I mean, Josh Allen's Josh Allen, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
two stud running backs to start, and then you kind of just look at some of the guys he kind of hit on. I mean, George Pickens. I didn't necessarily think George Pickens was going to be like this productive just because of the inconsistencies. He's been
Yeah,
so
I did.
good.
I did not either. I had a massive fade on Pickens this year. That was a terrible call by me.
Yeah, I mean, he has a couple dud weeks, which you're going to get from Pittsburgh. I mean, they're not necessarily a offensive juggernaut, but the fact that he's like, I mean, there's a guy on bye that we'll get to as well. I mean,
They
Cortland
looked
Sutton.
they looked it last week.
Oh yeah, no, I mean they scored all kinds of points, but like, I mean,
Yeah.
between him and like, Cortland Sutton, like again, that
It's
hindsight
been
again is really, I mean, since week eight's literally like, I think the number two wide receiver in points is Cortland Sutton, which is crazy. But Shakir, I was looking kind of like, I kind of want to rip Anth a little bit with that Shakir Cortland Sutton trade, but like
Cortland
I can't
Sutton is his
blame.
guy.
Yeah, but I couldn't blame him. I mean, after that zero, you just have so much spite, just to like get rid of him. And like Shakir has put up double digits like every week. He really is like the safety blanket for Josh Allen. So like I don't really hate necessarily that trade. I mean, overall, there's more of a ceiling with Sutton, and he's proven it, which is crazy.
Mm,
Marvin Harrison Jr. Was a third round pick for Steve, I think, right? Or second round pick? Sorry,
second.
second round pick.
Yep.
Yeah, and he doesn't even need to play him. Like it's not even a thought to
Right.
play him really for him right now, which
Right.
is like crazy convenient. So I hate saying it, man. I really do every week, and it's starting to become like a bit, but it's not. Like I really hate seeing Steve have a good team because like he's I think he might arguably have possibly the strongest team going into the playoffs. His depth's insane.
Yeah, he's got like high end backups for three spots. It's pretty funny that he has four defenses. Especially
I didn't
after he
notice
paid
that.
like $50 from Minnesota.
That's
Um,
crazy. Yeah,
I kind of
I didn't
like
even notice that.
I kind of want to play Minnesota against Cousins.
Atlanta, it's not a bad play. Probably get a
I mean,
pick six out of
I
it.
get playing Tennessee. Tennessee's pass defense has been like a little suspect recently, I feel like. But so I get the play against Mac Jones, but man, Minnesota is just they're gonna blitz the shit out of Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I mean they know him well enough, right? I mean they've seen enough tape
He
too this year to say that he
can't
can't
move.
move. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just gonna say that. Yeah, so um it's crazy, man. I don't. Phil doesn't have a defense, and he's got Detroit, but I
Yeah, what
guess
is that?
Detroit's like the only one viable defense he has that he could play. I mean Houston's on
He
bye, so
is he waiting for some team that got dropped off waivers or something? Or is he
yeah,
just
he has to be. I mean, it is probably a tough
Miami?
play. Yeah,
He probably has a huge he probably has a big bid in for Miami because that they're in a good spot against the Jets.
yeah, I streamed him in another league. Yeah, but I think yeah, I think he just probably realized like, I'll keep Detroit, but I don't need to roll them out on Thursday night against a pre, that's gonna be a crazy division game.
Right.
The Packers beat Detroit last year in Detroit, so but I still gotta, kind of looking at Phil's team. I mean, he's back to Kirk Cousins this week. Surprising
Yeah.
move. He dropped Stroud, which I like. He's got Bo Nix. So he's probably just gonna ride him, I think.
Yep.
But um, I don't know. I always think about like not that CJ Stroud's been anything special, but I would have just like stashed him. I would have just like dropped somebody else. I mean,
Yeah, same. Call me crazy, but I straight up would be starting I would straight up be starting Will Levis over Kirk Cousins.
yeah, I mean
Like
that's definitely not an unreasonable argument
that's
for
what I would
sure.
do. Again, like if I'm taking a flyer streamer, like I would start Levis because
Like
I
what
think he can
Kirk
throw
Cousins
like
hasn't done anything in 3 games,
he
under 10.
threw four picks and like if you watch like if you see those picks
Terrible.
like
That was terrible. Yeah,
they were ducks. And like I that's why I think like I think his it's tough. Similar to how Rogers has looked, like you just can't move in the pocket. And when you can't move and set your feet, like you can't get zip on your damn ball. So
yeah.
like, man, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Phil's got a tough run out this week.
I agree. I
He's
mean,
got
and
to play Pitts. He's playing three
yep,
Falcons in like a brutal spot.
yeah, yeah,
Bijan's
no,
Bijan. He's he's looked awesome, but
amazing. Yeah, no, I agree. I think I got to go. We're both, I think, going to
yep,
side with Steve here, obviously, but
yep.
um, yeah, tough run out for like you said for Phil, but I think, I mean, you can't. It is what it is. I mean, you're playing against Steve this week, and he's had some deficiencies.
Horrible matchup for Phil.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, you already got some deficiencies, like you said, with the lineup. So,
Yeah,
he had a hell of a week last week. I think he put up like 140, Phil. But I think that was kind of like you got Thielen now in Philly. He's not gonna do the same thing he did last week in terms of scoring, I don't think. And
very likely not.
um, you got Cousins this week. You got some of the other guys. I think are will probably hit. I mean, Aaron Jones. I like that matchup.
Yep, I think his
Bijan, I still
backs.
think. Yep, Bijan I like, and then Pollard I like. I mean, we've kind of touched on all three of those guys like all year for him. So, again, a team that has good backs. But yeah, record wise, I think Phil lost a couple tough ones. I'll say that. Kind of streaky, like we mentioned, with some up and down weeks. But
Yeah,
yeah, this is a tough draw for Phil. I think this is the end for him. Unfortunately, I think this will eliminate him.
yep. Yeah, I agree. I think and low key, like Steve's held on to Rico Dowdle all season, and he's
He's
now
popping.
officially like taken over, and he's in a really good spot against Cincy on Monday. So a lot of avenues I think for Steve to just like have another floor week of 120, and you're kind of thinking like if that's your floor, like that's probably like the max ceiling for Phil this week.
Yep.
Um, you know what I mean? So yeah, I
No.
think pretty handily. I think I'm gonna pick Steve
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
agree. Um,
It's
this is
the
the
last
last
one.
one. Yeah, last one here, and we'll talk some outlooks and power ranking while we're doing it. But
Yep.
um, the Blizzard, what a week from the. So he officially takes over, like we mentioned, I think in week 2 or 3, whenever we did the pod, very very beginning of the year, kind of leading up to their matchup. Arby's and Rick's and Ship Blizzards like head to head. So I think there's that win broke the deadlock, so to speak, for Ship Blizzard and Arby's. So and what a week it was. He had 157 points. He had the most points in the league last week. So Ship Blizzard is trending up, but he's got to take out the Goose this week, which is going to be I think he's got a couple buys from what I understand, um, but yeah, I'll kind of break it down here while I'm waiting. I think Sny's gonna be back in a minute here. Apologize for the technical difficulty here for a little bit, but any case, yeah, Ship Lizard's just I really honestly feel like he's just been had a couple tough losses, but and potentially, you know, might still be the guy that's kind of sitting on the way out, and kind of looking in, but it's uh it's tough. So what I'm going to do, kind of just run through, Ship Lizard's team here quick. I would get him back on. Um, we got he's got Russell Wilson playing this week. Lamar on bye. Kind of a tough bye week for Rick. Um, but yeah, any case, you got Russell Wilson this week. He's got McConkey, who I don't really necessarily know is playing. I think he's a little bit banged up this week. What's going on here? Unlimited, so he might play this week. I know Mike Evans is banged up a little bit. That's tough earlier in the week again, so more to come. Taylor out, so he's going to have to play Jalen Warren. And there he is. He's back. Um, and then, yeah, so I mean, I was kind of recapping a little bit of Rick's team here. I mean, he's got some holes this week, which kind of stinks for Rick. I mean, and some question marks. I mean, McConkey practice, it looked like I was just saying. So
Yeah.
that's a big piece for him. And then Evans is questionable. Like, it looks like he's maybe on the teetering on the doubtful side. And then he's got Taylor and Lamar is kind of horses. Got to play Darnell Mooney too, which stinks. I mean, that's just not a. He's got nobody out. I mean, I guess he could play DJ Moore if DJ Moore plays. He's been kind of like been decent the last like 2 or 3 weeks. I feel like DJ
Yeah,
Moore.
I feel like you have to play DJ Moore. I'm surprised.
Oh yeah, 3 weeks.
I
Yeah,
feel
you
like
got to play DJ Moore.
Rick, I feel like you should put McConkey in your flex, man. Um,
Yeah, that would be the smart move. Yeah.
but yeah, I think I would be playing DJ Moore. I'm assuming he's gonna get into his lineup. Um,
Yeah, he's got a lot of questionable receivers, so I guess that's probably what he's thinking. But
or
I don't see that any reason you play Darnell Mooney over DJ Moore just with what's going on there in Atlanta. And
yeah,
then the Goose really trying to hold out first place, and the points. He's got a lot on the line here, Aaron. This week he's got to be a little bit nervous. He's got trying to lock up the 1 seed, lock up the bye, and lock up most points. There's a lot on the line here for Aaron this
yeah,
week, and who's he got out? Oh, Joe Mixon. That's tough.
yeah, brutal.
Damn, Jerome Ford. That's got no depth. Got to play Jerome Ford. Yeah, guess he does. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I get
that's
call me
tough.
nuts. Call me nuts. I might play Jonathan Brooks because
Better than Jonathan than Ford probably. Yeah,
I mean, I just feel like Brooks looked good last week, and I
yeah.
feel like they might want. And I know it's like it's not a good matchup or a good spot for them at all,
Sure.
but I feel like maybe like the downfield passing for Carolina is like non-existent against Philly's corners, so they just like check down constantly and they run like a very small ball offense, and I think Brooks can kind of do enough to sort of like PPR scam his way to like double digits or something. That wouldn't surprise me, and I don't know. But then I guess Ford could kind of do the same thing. And they're just throwing all over the place. So I, toss up, but
I missed throw
this team.
from Aaron Rodgers to Garrett Wilson last week. Brutal.
Yeah, that was brutal. But Jerry Judy, my goodness.
Yeah,
It's
just gonna say
wild.
that
It's
he's been
wild
he's
the
been
run
awesome.
out that he's had, just like throwing Judy in his lineup as like a flyer 5 weeks ago, and now he's like his second best
Locked in.
receiver.
Yeah, he's locked in for him. I mean,
Yeah.
he's been incredible. I mean, not even
Yeah.
basically. He had a 40-point week last week. He won him the week. I mean, you had a
Yep.
40-point week from anybody outside your quarterback, you're winning the week.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, and he's got a tough matchup against at Pittsburgh. I'll say that this week. I mean, I just kind of looking at the rosters, kind of how they're built here. I mean, like we just mentioned, I love Jamar Chase at Dallas. That's going to be I mean,
Yeah.
Jamar Chase could put up he could put up a 40 spot this week, to be honest with
Yep.
you.
Yeah, he's got pretty solid matchups for like five of his players.
Connor. Yeah. Yeah. No, I
Darnold's also low key in a really good spot against
yep.
Atlanta, and
Yep.
I think Garrett Wilson at least they'll. I think Rodgers will kind of like try to make up for last week and kind of connect with them. Hopefully a little more downfield because they just totally misuse Garrett Wilson should be used like Jerry Judy's being used in Cleveland, and they should use him way more downfield instead of having him run like these like precision routes all the time. Um, but
What was the so Rick's playoff
yep.
implications are if he wins and I lose, then it's between him and Phil for points, or him, Phil, and you, I guess, technically for points. Okay,
If
so
he
let's say
he's
Ryan
in
wins. Oh
he's
no, well,
in yeah, he's
it'd
in
be
the
just him
driver's
and Phil.
seat with a win, he's pretty much in the he's already in the driver's seat for the seventh seed. Um
Yeah, he's got a ton of points. Yep,
realistically.
yep, yep.
So he has to maintain the difference over Phil and over me. And so realistically, him winning or losing doesn't really matter. He just needs to
No,
put up
it's
points.
just points. Yeah, yep,
Yep.
you're right. So I mean, if I lose, that essentially means that the seventh spot almost well. I guess there's a lot going on between my matchup and Ryan's matchup because I should say if Ryan beats you, you're eliminated
Yep.
probably on points alone.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'll be essentially eliminated with
Yeah,
Ryan with a Ryan
if
win,
Brian wins, he locks up the sixth seed.
and then that's what Rick's pretty much eyeing is like just as long as he does decent and puts up some points, he should probably outscore Phil, and that would mean he's essentially in the hunt for that seventh spot.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, jeez, a lot to go
Because
on here.
yeah,
Go
because
ahead.
Ryan's in a really good spot still. Like I
And it's
think,
long.
yeah, I think Ryan, like he's at least um the it's gonna come down to whether realistically it's gonna come down to if Ryan wins, obviously he has a 60, but even with a loss, like he can still get in.
I'm
And then
gonna
the
go back
sixth
to the.
would just be
Oh yeah, he got 1567. Yeah, I didn't look at Ryan's points. So
yeah,
yeah, I mean,
yep.
barring a
So
base him falling flat on his face, Ryan, this week against you with a loss and like a pretty shitty point total,
right, right.
he's pretty much gonna still lock up a spot.
Yep.
Interesting. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. I guess going back to that matchup. I mean, the Goose has some good matchups. I'm gonna go with the Goose. I think I'm gonna pick the Goose. Which would lock him up for the number one seed. I don't know if Aaron's ever had the number one seed in this league. We'd have to look that up.
Yeah,
Um,
this has been one of Aaron's best seasons. I mean, he has a chance to go 11-3. Like
yeah, and take
that's a
like
really like obviously, but I'm not saying, anything like that no one doesn't know, but that's like a ridiculous season going
oh
11
for
and
sure
3 and
eleven
having
three.
most points and having, the
I was
first
just
round
gonna say
bye and that's like yeah, that's well done by Aaron.
yeah,
This is gonna be
it's a tough one.
could be tight. I
Got a lot of
yeah, I'm gonna
questionable
pick
tags for Ship Blizzard though. I will say that.
yeah,
So
I'm gonna
more
pick
to come.
I still think Aaron keeps it rolling. Um I think it could be higher scoring. I think Rick is definitely in the driver's seat for that 7 seed. But yeah, I think Aaron's team has too many ways that he could win. I think like his five best players, I think, can just like carry him. And maybe this is a week that Komet scores. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah,
And who knows, man? Like Pittsburgh's D against Jameis can like just give him like 15 to 17 too.
yeah, no, that's a good takeaway. I mean, yeah, I think that yeah, there's probably some shuffling coming in from Rick's side in terms of what he's going to put out there and like a couple questionable tags. So we'll see who actually makes it out to the games on Sunday. But
Yep.
yeah, I think Aaron does it. I mean, I don't know about points. Points is going to be tight. I think he's still got we got I think he's got him by I'm trying to think how many he has Riggs by. Oh, 30 exactly. That's random.
Mhm.
1659 to 1629.08 exactly too, which is crazy. Um so yeah, that's going to be a tight one too. So yeah, the points race is by no means over. It's a two-man race, but
Yep.
that's always a nice little paycheck too. I mean, why not? Why not get a couple hundred? Get your money back basically.
Cool
So
hundo to get your money back.
yeah, yeah, it's not bad at all. Yeah, so I think well that was good. I mean, that's good. I'm kind of looking at the fantasy outlook. There's really only two teams eliminated. I mean, the Bastards and Fink.
Yep.
Um, five teams in it, and then like you mentioned, one, two, three, four, five teams fighting for the last two spots. Crazy. I mean, a crazy ending here, but yeah, I think. I mean, we can power rank it because we're going to go in the playoffs, so we might as well kind of like kind of run down. We can tier it too if you want, because I think that's always easier. I mean, although I don't know,
Let's predict so
tiers are kind of blemishing now. So
with our um with our matchups, did I picked myself to win, so that would mean that Ryan is six, me and Ryan are both 6 and 8. Um, and then he would theoretically get because it depends. Because if I pick Rick to beat Aaron, but I didn't, so what would the playoff seeding be then?
Rick would be
I,
5-9. So I mean, point total is going to be the biggest thing because the record wise, like the only thing that's going to swap record wise is if I win and I go 7-7.
right, and
Tiburon
Ryan loses.
loses and goes six
Right.
and eight, then I slide up to the sixth spot, and then it's a battle for points. Which
Yeah, you can only get the sixth spot. Yeah.
I only get the sixth spot, or I'm out.
Right.
Basically, I mean,
Right.
1406. I have no shot of catching any of you guys in points. So yeah,
No.
if I don't get the sixth spot with a Tiburon loss and a pack W, I'm out. So
Yep.
that's the main thing. I took myself, so I guess I'm going to get to 7-7. I took Tiburon, but I'm obviously not exactly rooting for that. But so that would for me that would change it to basically it would just flip flop the seedings probably for me. Because I mean, Rick's win wouldn't mean shit. It just meant he would have to try to beat Tiburon by 50 points, which is very
Yeah.
unlikely.
Right. Yeah. So then the seating, yeah, would be um, still Ryan at the 6 seed, and then Rick in the 7. Yeah. So we can, that's, that's what I
Yeah,
think the playoffs is going to be. Um, I think it's going to be Ryan in the 6 seed, even with a loss to me. Because
yeah.
I think, did I pick you or did I pick?
You picked May, so I would get the W.
Oh,
Like that.
okay. Then I have you in the 6 spot, and I have Ryan in the 7.
Yeah, that's in theory what I'm hoping for and rooting for, and also what I picked. So, I mean,
Yep, that's what I picked too.
the way that it's kind of ranked right now is pretty much kind of how I have it shaking out. Because I think we picked Riggs. We picked the Goose. So Goose would be 11-3. Riggs would be
Yep,
10-4.
yep.
Andy, I think we picked
And then we'd flip Andy, and so it would
Arby's.
be Aaron at 1, Steve at
Yep,
2 with a win. Ben
Arby's at 3.
Arby's would move up to the 3 with a win over Andy.
Yep,
Um, and
Andy's
assuming he like beats his points, like if he wins by like 1, then he's still the 4 seed.
correct.
Um, no, sorry, that's dumb. I was looking at the wrong totals. If he beats Andy, he moves into the 3 seed regardless. Um,
Yes, correct. Yeah, so yeah, that's right. So Arby's would
yep.
be 3.
Sorry, I had a
Andy's
brain fart
4.
there.
No, you're good. Andy's 4.
Yep.
Creek will be 5. Those 5 spots can't really be moved at all, obviously.
Yep. Right.
Um, I'd be 6. Tiburon would be 7, and you guys all be sitting out looking in.
Yep.
Interesting. That'd be God. I hope that happens because then I'd at least sneak in, and I play Arby's. Oof, that'd be a crazy matchup. We'll get to that later, but yeah,
You would play Steve. No. Yes, correct. You would be the sixth seed and you would play Arby's. Yes. Sorry.
yeah. No, you're good. You're good.
Derailing.
Otherwise,
It's late.
let's
I'm derailing. Train
yeah.
is derailing.
Yeah, I hear you there. I'm kind of tired too. But I guess let's throw out the other hypotheticals. I guess. I mean,
Yep.
the other hypothetical would be that Tiburon wins. He locks up the six.
Mhm.
I'm eliminated, and then points would probably most likely go to Ship Lizard,
Yeah, unless Phil has a huge week.
barring you or Phil having huge. Well, actually, if you lose to Tiburon, you're not gonna you'd be out. So
Very, very likely.
yeah,
I'd be out if,
yep,
well, unless it's like a
both go off. Yeah,
170 to 160 match. Yeah.
yep. Okay, so yeah, so really, I mean, barring anything
Slim.
really really crazy, it's me, Tiburon, Ship Lizard, and Colombian White most likely on, but like very slim margins, and you very very slimmer margins to
Hmm.
potentially get in. So
Yep.
interesting. Okay. Okay. Wow, this is crazy. And then I guess if we're gonna go like a quick power ranking or just like a quick like who's looking good going into it. I
Yep.
mean, with 11-3, I guess you gotta. I think I still have Riggs over the Goose. I just looking at Steve's roster. It sucks to say, but like again, he's so deep. Like he has to make some decisions here and there, but God forbid something happens with a player or two, he's not to sweat it. He doesn't have to play the waiver game during the playoffs, which is huge, and a lot of us will,
Yeah.
if we get to the playoffs. So,
Yep.
and we have a major injury. So, yeah, I like where Steve's at, unfortunately, and I think I have him slightly over Aaron. Aaron's got a great team too, but um, I just think Riggs is just so consistent this year and so deep.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I,
I actually may have, I actually,
go
it's,
ahead.
it might be nuts. I'm going to put Riggs at one. I might put Arby's at two.
Okay,
Um,
that's a good argument.
and
That's
then
he's got a good roster.
yeah, I think his team can get hot. And not like I'm saying Aaron's can't, but I like the outlook on some of Ben's players as a whole more so than the outlook for Aaron's. But Aaron's I mean, he's three. That's like a top locked in, like top three for
I
me.
think so. Yep.
Yeah. And then we have Andy at
Got
four.
Yep. Got to go Andy just outside of it. Yep.
I still have Nils at five. Like I have Nils like confidently at five, and I know his team's like he's way beyond in points, but like I just like look at his team like top to bottom, and I'm like he's like pretty solid team. So
Yeah, they've
overall, I
done.
might have him and Ryan like pretty close, but I think I still have Nils in the five, and then Ryan in the six. We get right.
Yeah, no,
That's
I think I would agree with that. I think that Guerrero pickup for Beeve is going to be huge because now he
yeah.
has three running backs he can throw out there. Again,
Yep.
the CD Lamb, we'll see. More to come. I think, like to your point, if they're still winning and they're still running, he's going to be out there and he's going to just be a target monster. Maybe not getting in the end zone, but he's going to get all the looks. So yeah, I like that. I like Tiburon's going to be scary if he gets in, which he all but pretty much sure, almost assuredly will get in, just because he's got
Hmm.
a good point total, and even with a loss, he's people are going to have to go outscore him, and no one's really necessarily super close to him. I mean, Steve
Yeah.
or Rick's 50 points behind him. I mean,
Right.
it's a big number. So yeah,
Yeah.
Tiburon's going to get in. So I think I'll leave it at those six because I mean the seventh seed. It could be Tiburon, it could be me sliding up into the six, but I think those are the top six for sure. And then
Yep.
more to come. I mean, we'll see who sneaks in there. I mean, and then we'll kind of see where my team's my team. I don't think there's nothing scary about it. But to your point, if I get in, I got a solid starting lineup. It just depends on if I get everybody to score touchdowns in the same week. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Yep.
But yeah, I like that.
You
I like that
know.
take.
Do we know how is the consolation bracket, are we still playing it? Is that still the thing for seeding for the draft, or
Um,
do we know that for
so
sure?
it's a really good question. I looked it up on this. I will credit Lug that the doc is actually pretty useful.
Nice.
I did not look at it like pretty much at all until we had to pull this up, but this thing was last updated on September 24 or September of 2024. So let's see
Okay.
let me pull this down here, and there's the All-Star game. Um, last place punishment, draft order structure, ball sack lottery. Managers are assigned a specific number of balls. Is that what we chose? Ball sack? Okay. Um, oh, I think that's what we did last year. So I guess maybe it doesn't matter the consolation bracket. I guess we're just getting balls. I mean, that's the only thing that's listed here. It doesn't really say anything about a consolation. So I guess that's another clarity question that we need to present to the group
Yeah.
and see if we're doing consolation.
So like Anthony would get the most balls and then
Yeah, so he would get 12, I guess, and then all the way down to like if you're first, you only get one ball. And then I think then we select our draft position, I think is how we did it this past year. So um I guess that's how we did it. Yeah, so I mean I don't recall. I think I missed the playoffs last year, so I don't recall setting my lineup, but again, I my memory obviously has been pretty shot
yeah. I
considering.
mean, I think yeah, regardless, I still like setting my lineup.
Yeah, I think maybe we just lock the teams, but you still just set your lineup. I think that's what
Yeah.
we did maybe last year.
Yeah,
Now that you're saying
yeah.
that.
Yeah, no ad drops for the eliminated teams.
Yeah, I remember locking the teams. I think that makes sense. I think we still set up our lineups and we still
Yep.
run through the consolation just to see the finish.
Yeah.
I think we actually no, we definitely did that. Never mind. I'm sorry. We now, kind of just talking it out. Because I remember somebody was like dead last, but they didn't actually get, I think it was Ben. Didn't he like win? And but he had like the worst place team the one year, but he ended
Yeah.
up not finishing last in the consolation, so he didn't get the last pick or the first
Right.
pick.
Yep.
So yeah, that makes sense.
Cool.
Damn,
Yeah, we
this
can get confirmation on that.
crazy. I can't believe this is it. This is
This
the
is it,
last
man.
week of the regular season. So
Yeah.
yeah, so there's probably a little bit more odds of a couple teams outside of Fink and Logue to not make the playoffs,
Yeah.
um, but there's still fantasy implications in every matchup basically. So
Yep.
crazy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Pretty soon we're gonna be talking playoff matchups and talking about in 3 weeks we'll have a new fucking champion, man. It's crazy. And then we jump right into the off season.
yeah, yeah. The off season pods will be pretty fun too. If we can
Yeah,
get a couple of those
we'll
going.
adjust our schedules and when we record, but definitely like I definitely want to touch on like do like a wrap up, have some guys on, do like just
Yeah,
kind of like loose formats where we, just like riff for like 30, 40 minutes and
yeah, love
people
that.
on but we'll get there, but this is not that time now. It's go time and I'm pumped.
Absolutely.
It starts tomorrow.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. I'm sure everyone will be firing and everyone will be locked into to see what happens. I mean, it starts tomorrow, and every matchup has a little bit of an implication for each other. So it'll be
Yep.
interesting.
Hell yeah. Let's go.
All right, brother.
All right, man.
See you next
League.
week.
Peace.
Peace, brother.